I'm interested in, like, I think we're trying to figure out how to address affordable housing in the village. And I think it's gonna cost a hell of a lot of money, way more than 1,500 or 5,000 or 10,000. So these things, I understand it's all relative, but they're, to me, just, I look at them as relatively small expenses that I wonder about how much time do we spend on this? And then how do we get into this? And so I'm just sort of going along with the flow because I wasn't part of the budgeting process. But just so you know how I'll think about it in the future is I'm trying to figure out how are we going to get sizable enough chunks of money to try to take on what I think are the biggest community issues. I know that people may have issues about commissions and about these things. I think there are some of these bigger picture things. So that's in my head, I'm just looking at, it feels like we don't have enough time to talk about the big stuff. And so then when I see $400 of whether we're spending it on, if there's a basic line of like, hey, we're in a gray area now of accounting, then of course, let's just say you can't do that on the form. But if we're talking, so that anyway, just so you have a sense, I'm
Normally
totally
this would be guided through a commission. And so,
cool.
I think part of why we're breaking it down a little bit today is because we're trying to get this process stuff straight. And I think the reason to discuss what we do and don't fund is for that.
Yeah.
But I agree with you. Like, these aren't things we would normally want to spend time on.
And I think, I agree 100%, and I'll just add this other layer, less so than with Pride. Pride was whatever it cost last year, and it's probably about the same this year. This particular thing, which is again, not a lot of money, but we're going from $0 to $1,500 or more.
Right.
Because if we make it a signature event, it's potentially going to be more in the future. But again, just the transactional perspective from, we didn't really support this because it didn't sort of exist at the village level until now. But you're right, it is small potatoes, you know, but our level of accountability goes down to the penny.
I agree with Gavin, so we've spent 2 hours now, I think. And what I would like to see in this kind of situation is 15 minutes or 20, whatever, council have input, and then send it to the finance committee, or if there's some other group, rather than us taking our time on minutia. Not that minutia is not important, but I don't know that this is the place.
The other thing I would add to the minutia is that I'll speak for myself. I'm hypersensitive about all expenditures because I just sat with a forensic audit team investigating me for $300 in fuel for my work vehicle.
And I was part of a 2-hour grilling session as well. So it does matter. But again, I would say we're nailing down some process stuff. That's part of what a retreat is for. But I agree. Like, in terms of voting on this, it seems like we're all okay with the amount. We just need to like address the appropriate things to fund. Kevin and
Yeah,
Josue figured that out.
Yeah, just to summarize.
You're going up to 2,000.
No, you're still keeping at 1,500, what I understood.
No,
is
because
that-
you already spent 500.
Yeah, but that's already been approved, that's a separate
What,
thing.
but you were just talking about annually, putting a cap at 1,500, and now you just blew right by it.
No, because you're considering a separate request. This is a separate request.
It's the same
It is.
activity,
So what I wanted to say when Carmen said cap, other folks nodded their head, so I didn't say anything. I didn't like the word cap, 'cause I don't want to hamstring us, so we are having this conversation. Typical, 1,500 is a typical amount for these large events. That number can be anything. So when you have a typical amount versus a cap, you know, that provides more wiggle room. But you're right, it really is $2,000. And yes, separate.
But that's the thing I got-
It comes down to verbiage. Is it 1,500 per what? Because from one perspective, this is one thing for $2,000. Another perspective, it's two things. One was 1,500, one was 500.
But it's related, it's not, I mean, the parsing out of the semantics, it is for Juneteenth.
Gotcha.
The speaker fee was $500 for Juneteenth. This is a request for Juneteenth. They are two separate requests, but for the same thing. So it's $2,000.
All right, what do you guys want me to do?
Okay, so I think it's been a good discussion. So Kevin, you want to make a motion?
I move that we support this request at the $1,500 level. Josue and I will.
Well, okay, so for an additional 1,500 is.
Correct, right, thank you.
Okay.
And then Josue and I will work with parties to nail out the details.
Okay, I'll second. Any other discussion?
Just really quickly, so I guess this would be for Matt, what about this volunteer gift card thing? Like, what is that like? What can
Lunch, can I have the afternoon to maybe figure that out?
we,
And
okay,
I would love a better situation where we could do general event support,
Sure.
but why don't we find out the details on it? If I can, like you said, can you raise a good point with like, what's a 501c3, some of that, but the particulars on what we're funding is certainly, I understand why we want to vet that out, but I want to find out some of the more details on what's possible, because
Okay.
I think what we're getting at is like, what kind of voluntary support can we provide, what kind of general support, while also being, concerned about what it's being spent on, but just the art of the possible.
yeah, I
So
got you.
I want to find out about the gift card, so we
Okay.
can just know moving forward for other events as well.
Okay,
But I think that we've decided in this case, whatever amount we do approve, it won't be for gift cards, it'll be for some of these
whatever,
other
yeah,
things.
yeah.
Yeah, and I don't think that's a big switch in that, like, hey, we'd rather support this aspect of this event than
Yeah, and that's not
some of
what, I
this
mean, for
stuff.
me, it's like, it's not, it has nothing to do with it. I mean, of course, we support it, and of course, if that weren't a gray area, then that would be fine too.
Mhm.
But that's the only reason, that's it, like, that's the only thing. So, yeah, I mean, yeah, yes, I guess I'm just voting too, yes.
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. So, we're gonna move into, what I really wanna talk about. We really haven't, not really spent more than an hour, but, I didn't want the budgeting thing, to take up a lot of time, but I think we had to kind of get through some of that stuff. So, in terms of kind of looking at the goal overview, I, first of all, suggested that Marianne could sort of briefly get us thinking a little more broadly related to the information from Strong Towns. And so Marianne, if you want to kind of say a few words about why you thought that was relevant and important as a perspective.
Yeah, so, I think everyone knows about the Strong Town movement, which, one of the main points is doing incremental development rather than huge, big projects. And if the incremental development works, then add to it. If it doesn't work, then change it or move it on. But what I was particularly interested in, when they sent out their strategic plan with their mission and stuff, what I was particularly interested in were the principles. And there are 6 of them listed, and I'm not gonna read all 6, but I'm gonna read 3 that I think are, which was the main reason why I sent it out. One is, local government is not the lowest level of government, but the highest level of collaboration for strong citizens working to build a prosperous place. I mean, putting the locus of government, the most important government, at the local level, I think is critical, and I think we should recognize that, and applaud that. Then the other principle, land is the base resource from which community prosperity is built and sustained. It must not be squandered. So a lot of what comes out of Strong Town is looking at, let's say you have a box store, and the benefits of that property, both for the community as well as, say, tax benefits, are not nearly as big as, say, like even in a lower income neighborhood commercial area. Because in that neighborhood commercial area, you have lots of small businesses, and the tax benefits that come for the schools and the community, and the economic benefits of those small little businesses is bigger than one big box store. Plus, those kind of businesses are where money is circulating within the community, so it's amplified. A transportation system is one of many means of creating prosperity in a community, but never an end unto itself. So I think that that is an important point to make. And then the last one, job creation and economic growth are the results of a healthy local economy, not substitutes for one. So looking at, actually, I think that's worth talking about, because I like what it says, but then I thought, "Oh, what does that mean?" I think it means like, we're not just looking to create more jobs, we're looking to have, well, I'll say, a local economy that might mirror what we had here 50 years ago when I moved here. You know, we had Vernay that employed good jobs, paid locally. We had Antioch Book Plate. Let's see, there was another one that doesn't exist anymore. I can't remember. Oh, of course, Antioch College. So you have this robust local economy with local diverse businesses that employ local people, and the money is flowing around within the community. So those were that was the main reason why I thought it was interesting to think about as we're thinking about it.
Yeah, I think that's really good sort of context perspective for starting to look at this. And so what I want to do, I don't think it's going to take very long to kind of give an overview and status, but just kind of make sure that everybody understands sort of where this document's coming from and where we're going. And then the afternoon is really going to be about us talking about our priorities vis-a-vis this, and then giving a good amount of time to our village team to talk about where they're at. So some of us were involved in moving up our strategic goal planning last year because we wanted that to intersect with our budgeting. And I thought that was a good process and one that we should continue. So, you know, as we start to get into the budget time, which will probably come pretty soon, we'll also need to be thinking about where we're at in terms of goals. The way we've looked at it or kind of refined it over the years has been that we sort of have these ongoing goals that are more aspirational, and then action items where we really try to drill down. One of the things that you'll note here in the color coding is many of the action items haven't been initiated yet. Keep in mind that we typically are thinking the focus is on that third column, the 2022 actions, and then there are these other things that we want to sort of capture. Now, you know, we can certainly talk about restructuring the way we look at goals in the future, but just so that's understood. The other thing is that a lot of these more general goals have been tied to village values, and those are noted at the top and sort of stemming out of the things that for a while we made commitments to. I think one of the things that we should talk about either today or in the future are some of these items that haven't been actioned yet, again, whether they are priorities for council as a whole. So the wetland delineation study is one that came up that, I mean, I think we just have to look at. What are we really going to try to do by the end of the year? But I think that, you know, there are several things that have started. This is also where a lot of times I might not know everything that's going on, so something maybe should be greened or yellowed or whatever, but, you know, this was sort of the closest assessment that I saw of what I know is happening today. So I think that's really kind of how I wanted to introduce the document. We've got about 15 minutes to start talking a little bit about any of these details, but I do want to wait until staff comes in for us to go through our priorities, because I think it's important for them to hear what we're thinking in that conversation. So, questions, thoughts?
Well, I think you did a good job, you know, with the color coding. You said you acknowledge that you may not know everything that's going on, but I think this is, I mean, you obviously know more than I do. Because I don't know that I could have done this as good as you have. But I think that does, the color coding certainly, just like any other dashboard, gives you a at-a-glance perspective of, wow, that's looking good, wow, we put some more effort into that, and when is that gonna get started? You know, I think my brain might explode if I tried to get into the ECID and paste the deal, because it's deep. And I think it's got Gavin written all over it, only because I think you're so smart.
I don't know what it means either.
Well, okay, so you're better off than I am.
Okay.
At least you're open, I already know I'm confused about it. And on that particular line, affordable community, obviously, you know, the things on housing, and then, I see inclusive YS being part of that, so obviously it's got my name, all over it. And I'm not gonna go through and identify everything that I'm interested in, but again, I think this is a great start, and I think it helps us know what we're getting into. Meaning, if I jump on a red item, I'm gonna have to start it, as opposed